Firstly, Vinit, a warm welcome to you on filmeshilmy.com and a huge congratulations on the Archie soundtrack.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. Now I've been a huge fan of Sony Music's content for a while, and I think with the Archies, it gives a sense of fresh air because बहुत कम ऐसे soundtracks आए हैं हिंदी सिनेमा में जो actually rock and roll या 60s के ऊपर based है, especially when it comes to the Western sort of music industry and the music genres. So how important was it for you to really actually amalgamate that style, the different styles of music that's in the soundtrack with the sort of sensibilities of the Indian listeners and audiences?
So, okay, I let me give the credit to the person where it's due. It's all Zoya Akhtar. The reality is that I think, and I truly believe that Zoya and Reema as a team are one of the finest filmmakers that we have in this country. I think every time they've picked up a creative piece of work to do, whether it's films, whether it's interesting stuff that they do on the OTT formats, they've always pushed the envelope, and somehow they just always seem to get it right. And the whole combination of Zoya and Reema, along with Shankar Ehsaan Loy, and Ankur Tiwari, who's such an integral part of this entire journey. I think for us, it was, we knew that we are in the safe hands working with this creative talent. And I think what they've done with the soundtrack of the film is just truly phenomenal. I think, I know it's very often we tend to fall in love with our own work, but I can say that we are so proud to be associated with this project. And I think it's all fallen in place very nicely.
Sure. I'm actually very curious to know, what was it specifically about the Archies that, sort of gave you the green light to really work on this project? And I think generally as well, when you are approached for, being a label for a certain album, what other factors do you actually consider?
So I think specifically to Archies, I think there were two or three elements that were really exciting as far as us as a team are concerned. Number one, again, I'm going to go back to the Zoya Reema team. We have tremendous faith and belief in them. I think the body of work that they've done consistently over the last many, many years, they've always pushed the envelope. And it is always exciting to work with people, bring in a fresh perspective every time that they're trying to do interesting things. Right. I think the second piece is always the team that puts together the music around the film. Again, with regards to Archie's, going back to whether it was Shankar Ehsaan Loy, Ankur Tiwari, and that combination is just perfect. I mean, again, there is so much of body of work each of these individuals have, it makes the decision that much more easier. And the third thing, of course, is that, this is kind of first time that, an adaptation of such a iconic comic book is kind of taking place. So we were very excited with that opportunity, and there is some such interesting young talent which is an integral part of this entire offering. It felt very different from everything that's out there. So for us, that was a big reason. And Archies is actually a musical coming of age. So in that sense, the story and the music are so interlinked, so interwoven beautifully. It's a delight for any company to be associated with a project like that.
Sure. And I think the thing about the Archie soundtrack, I mean, I love Suno. That's definitely one of my favorite songs of the album. Um, and I think largely, if we look, especially post-pandemic, whether it's the films, whether even the songs, nostalgia has become a huge factor, I think, into really driving a sense of popularity of the album or a specific track. Got tongue twisted there. I mean, I know Sony Music India also released on the occasion of 25 years of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, you released Tujhe Yaad Na Meri Aaye by B Praak, and honestly, I have not been able to stop listening to that. It's been on loop. So again, when it comes to nostalgia, do you now think that it's become a more sellable commodity now, a lot more than ever? Do you feel like that's almost going to become a separate entity now, nostalgia, and driving the sales and popularity of an album or a song?
So I don't necessarily look at it as becoming more saleable or not. I mean, I think maybe another perspective to that is that there are a lot of creative pieces of content that can be presented in a very modern and a contemporary manner, which probably resonates with both set of audiences. You know, audiences that kind of grew up with it and audiences of today who probably were never kind of exposed to it. So I do feel that whenever there is an opportunity and we try and work with the creative team that believes in an opportunity like that. And then I think the end result is more often than not very magical. For example, we, you know, Tujhe Yaad Na Meri Aayi, which sounds as beautiful and as amazing as the original piece of work sounded, and yet so different and yet so new.
Sure. I would love to know a bit more, though, actually, with especially with your role, because I find it very fascinating. Because when you're working in an industry like this, which obviously manages both the commerce and the creativity, I often find that, I mean, maybe artists in particular, there's often that sense of balance that one needs to have with something that satisfies the creative juices as well as something that will obviously, gain in the numbers. Where do you stand actually in terms of balancing that creativity and that commercial side?
It is always I would say, I won't say it's a difficult, but it's always a challenging task to get it right more often than not. But I come from a school of thought that, you know, if there is a choice between creativity and commerce, I mean, I would place my money on creativity because commerce usually follows if the creator is correct. I would believe in the talent that I'm working with. I would believe in the creative team of people that we are working with and go with their gut and instinct. And more often than not, it kind of serves you right because when the creative is right, I think commerce becomes a natural outcome.
I think if we look at the growth of the music industry, I mean, even if we look at the Archies era, which was what the record era, then obviously then we had the cassettes and then the CDs, and now it's all digital. Um, in terms of the evolvement of digital media on music, how do you feel? I mean, because there's a pros and cons to everything. What would you say are the greatest advantages of this whole digital revolution that's happened in the music industry? And what do you think is the downsides, which perhaps worked a lot better back in the day?
See, I think the biggest advantage is that things have become so real time and they've become so accessible to everyone. It's no longer about you know it being having a limited access to a certain set of people who can kind of afford it or otherwise, right? So I think easy accessibility. The second is there is instant consumer feedback that you're able to get, which I don't think we got in the yesteryears in an era of a CD or a cassette and stuff like that, right? Today, you put up a track and the consumers will tell you across all platforms whether they like, what they don't like, and that kind of is great. You know, when you put a piece of work together, I think one of the and to answer the other bit where what is not so great, I'm not sure. I think the new mediums have been a great boon from that standpoint, right? To kind of reach out to a much wider audience. It's much quicker, it's much faster. I personally believe that even from a creative talent standpoint, it's democratized so many things. You know, the accessibility, the availability, the ability to reach wider audiences, it's all kind of out there. But yes, maybe one thing that I think is that, you know, like once you're present on a digital medium, you are actually everywhere that you need to be, which in earlier years, it was pretty limited, right? I mean, either you got it in the form of a cassette or a CD, you would not get an insight into the life of the artist or what they're doing, where they are. You know, you would only get to see them if you went for their live gig and stuff like that. But today, that's a lot more easier. Today, the artist could be anywhere in the world, and then you can see what they've done and still participate in their journey just on your phone.
Sure. I think the beautiful thing about Sony Music India, and not just Sony, the music side, but even in terms of the TV shows that I absolutely love watching, is that there is a sense of originality involved. Of course, there have been adaptations, there have been remakes and recreations as well. But I feel like the music side, you've not indulged too much in just creating the music videos or just, trying to emulate whatever trends are ongoing. And I think Sony has always dared to really go beyond the conventions in delivering that. Um, so I would love to ask you, Vinit, as a business person, as someone as well who is really passionate about music, how much of a fire do you feel there is within you as a person, and how much do you think that really reflects in the perhaps the brand that you're involved with and the ethos that you follow?
I think it's very symbiotic. I've always felt that to do good work, you actually have to believe in the talent that you're working with. And the minute you have belief, you're able to create that infrastructure and support around the talent. You're able to get the best out of the creative team. So of course, fire is required. I think most of us who are in the music business are absolutely passionate about what we do, and it's just about channelizing the passion, and it reflects in the work that kind of the world gets to see at the end of the day. So of course, I love what I do. I must say that it's been 16, 17 years in the music business, and every day is a new day, and every day we're out here to make a difference.
Hmm. So I had asked you about what makes you greenlight a project, but I would love to know what is it that you kind of don't like to perhaps sign on? Like, what is there something that you would perhaps think, acha ye nahi, you know?
Uh, Let me try and answer that. That's very difficult to answer. Anything which is not distinctive, anything which is not differentiated, anything that does not, you know, excite you, probably is worth giving it another thought, whether you should or you shouldn't. I don't think it's so impulsive to say whether we will immediately go for this or not go for this. I think there are a lot of thought processes, and everything's about teamwork. I think we have one of the finest teams here who's been with the company along the journey. And more often than not, when things are right, you can feel it. Everybody feels it around you, and it usually lands up being in a unanimous yes. Let's go ahead and do this because it sounds exciting.
Sure. Now, of course, the Archies is set to stream very soon on Netflix. Um, Obviously the music is doing really well. I mean, I've heard some of the songs and they definitely do strike a chord. What would you like the listeners and the audiences to perhaps take away from this soundtrack in that sense? I mean, what would you see as a long-term goal of this soundtrack?
I think this is a great opportunity where the nostalgia of the 60s meets the contemporary sounds of today. I also believe that this could potentially be one of those soundtracks that has an ability to even cross over just outside of the Indian diaspora because of the way the soundtrack is. So I'm just really hoping that the audiences around the world love the film, love the music, and vibe with it.
Amazing, amazing. Well, definitely is a vibe for sure. But Vinny, thank you so much for joining me on filmeshilmy.com. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you for always giving us some wonderful soundtracks. I mean, Sony Music, honestly, I do love the stuff that you all come up with. And it's wonderful to see you sort of deliver this for the Archies as well. So looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was lovely meeting you. Thank you for your time. And thank you for those encouraging words. We will continue to keep doing our best as always.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.